Okay, so happy Sabbath afternoon, October 22nd. This will be episode 2 of Return and Report of the Jedi Mormon. Jedi Mormon has challenged Mormon truthage, anti-Mormonism, pro-Mormon truth. He's been conditioned and mind-controlled, the poor guy, to associate all apostates as heretics that are evil heretics, not good heretics like, Martin Luther, even though I read he was a drunk, but maybe he wasn't. Maybe that's just Catholic anti-Martin Luther propaganda. So we're told we are filling the world with anti-Mormon propaganda. Isn't that just the definition of Mormon history? Truth? Well, anyway, let's take things on factually here. I'm not wanting to be called a man of many words like a Dan Peterson, Scott Gordon, or Brian Hales kind of a guy. I don't want to twist things and then have poor guys like Jedi parroting things that they hear at church and faithfully go share with the world, even if they haven't done their homework, which is exactly what he accused me of doing, which is what I'm about to get into right now. I just wanted to start on this page because isn't this a cool picture? Got Jedi on the right there and all of his mystical Jedi gear. Then we got the mystical stone, seer stone of Joseph Smith inside of a crystal ball with the Masonic compass and square and the eye of Horus. The eye of the Illuminati. And there we go! Jedi Mormon, there he is, hiding again. Jedi Mormon. So, the return and report, as we hear in the temple, of Jedi Mormon. So, let's cruise over here. I'm going to shrink this up a little bit and cruise down to the other end of things. Yeah, it's not super organized, but I'm not into the whole editing thing today. It's the Sabbath day. We're supposed to rest from every care. Maybe I should sing just a... Oh, I don't even have... I could have prepared this and looked up... Welcome, welcome, Sabbath morning. Is that the name of the song? It's the chorus. But I used to love that song when I believed. Welcome, welcome, Sabbath morning. Now we rest from every care. Welcome, welcome is thy dawning. Holy Sabbath, day of prayer. All right, well, here we meet with friends and neighbors. Teachers, too, are in the throng. We might even see Jedi Mormon. To God's kingdom we belong. All right, so I do want to get into the Reddit stuff where people are wondering how they can, still believe. People on Latter-day Saints Reddit that are struggling with when life doesn't, when their patriarchal blessings are full of lies or whatever it is. But so he was talking about the Holy Ghost thing. We got into that last time, and I like to document things, and I'm going to do that right now. But first I'll just mention Jedi's first real big mistake with me was when he said, when I talked about the Church of New Name on one of my videos, and he said, "What do you mean the Church of New Name? The church's name has always been the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints." And I'm like, you sure you want to stay with that one, Jedi? Because it's on its third name. Third time's the charm, It's all about magic. And eventually he said, "Oh, I don't know what he said. It was a typo or something." I don't know. He made a mistake. Yeah, he made a big mistake on that one. Church of Christ, changing to the Church of the Latter-day Saints, which doesn't look really good, especially since the Book of Mormon says the name of Christ is supposed to be in the church's name. And then, the name we got now. So, I want to get into Jedi telling me I don't know squat about Freemasonry because I talk about the Luciferian doctrine that was brought in from Freemasonry into Mormonism. And Jedi, he's not just mind-controlled in the church, he's been subject to mass media mind control. And hey, they're all run by Freemasons who run the religions and seem to be the high-ranking people in government and banking and all sorts of things. In the media, or run it, the corporate governance. We got so much getting us to think that we just throw everything out as right-wing conspiracy theory, anti-Mormons. Nobody has any credibility. unless you look at the facts, and then they support they support the fact that we have revisionism and thought reform in the church. So, what's Jedi saying here? Dodger Game, Jedi Mormon, I've had visits from your ghost, but he's a liar. Okay, so Jedi's quoting me. He says, I'm seriously beginning to wonder if you even claim to be Christian. Dude, of course I don't claim to be Christian. I claimed to be Mormon, and that was not... And we were at war with the Christians, but now we want to be Christian. Everything's changed. Gordy changed it. We're Christians now, says Gordon B. Hinckley. Sure, the Book of Mormon says we were, but that only lasted a few years until Joseph Smith got into Swedenborgianism and Luciferianism from Freemasonry, which is what we're talking about here. So, all right. Ooh, look at this. Jedi said, my fault on that one. What I was getting was that you never seem to talk about the Holy Ghost in your posts because his modus operandi is reading, and mine is videos where I talk. So I said, you maybe need to learn between talk and write, Jedi. Anyway, humble guy. He actually, he took responsibility for that. So like I said, people, he's not all bad. I think I've got hope for Jedi. All right, Jedi, next. LDS General Conference number 2, Illuminated Masonic Mind Control and Corporate Governance. And this is a video, too, out of a little trilogy there that's been redone about 3 times. There is no such thing as Masonic mind control, except in the imaginations of those who want to believe it. Dodger is gaming us, pun intended. He's so funny. That's okay. I can be corny sometimes, too. I'm not going to knock him for that one. Pun intended on that one. Dodger is gaming us. Dodger game. Yeah, that's great, Jedi. He has obviously not done research on the Masons. Sorry, Jedi. They're like a hobby, basically, not to mention family. Or mostly ex-family and dead family. The Masons are not even a religion. Sorry, I've basically proven that that's the case. They're more of a men's social club than anything. There we go. That's just what they want you to say. I could join them and the church wouldn't even bat an eye over it. They're about as threatening as a group of Relief Society sisters. So I mentioned to Jedi, he obviously didn't mean the wife of my youth. If you don't think Relief Society sisters can be dangerous, you apparently never met the extremely dangerous wife of my youth. So he says, one bad Relief Society sister doesn't mean they're all dangerous. No, they're not all dangerous. I never said that, Jedi. Furthermore, you continue to get it wrong with the Masons. Where the Masons are concerned, there's a Masonic lodge where I live. I had the opportunity of speaking with the head of the lodge, maybe the lodge master, don't remember his title, for almost an hour. Wow. You spent almost an hour talking to someone who's a Freemason, and you are an expert, Jedi. I can't believe he even bought that. Should be humiliating to him to act like that qualifies him to know something. So this guy, gives him the spiel to tell them what, do-gooders they are, and same stuff they tell their people at the lower degrees, and, oh, Jedi's all in. I talked with him for almost an hour. He said 45 minutes another day. I guess that's close to almost an hour. Their teachings are about as dangerous as a 1-year-old baby sucking on a bottle. Now it gets really funny. I suspect that Mr. Albert Pike uses the same tactics against the Masons as you anti-Mormonism. Oh, he's getting it right. Anti-Mormonism. That's good. Differentiate between being anti-Mormonism and anti-the people that we know and love that are at the bottom of the food chain in the church. As you anti-Mormonism quackadoodles use against the LDS church. As for the quotes, you can take them over to Mother Goose. She loves fiction, and I suspect that is what those who made the claims against the Masons have conned folks into believing. I'm also willing to bet that you personally have never been in a Masonic lodge. A Masonic lodge is like a ward. It is a unit of masonry. It is not a building. Okay? It is, however, used that the word is sometimes erroneously used that way, though. Of according to Google. I just checked to see what they'd say, and they said, sometimes people screw up like you did, ignoramuses. But that's okay. No, I've never been in a Masonic lodge, but I have been in multiple Masonic temples. Just like I have been in a ward, because I was a member of a ward, of many wards, basic unit of the church, but I was in ward meeting houses and inside the chapel and the cultural hall and inside the temple and inside the celestial room and the sealing rooms. There's a difference. A temple is a building. A lodge is like a ward. So he's calling out Albert Pike. Albert Pike is now putting out anti-Masonic propaganda. I love it. I've got to reread this because, okay, the Masons are not even a religion. Got it. I think I sent him quotes from Albert Pike, who, was talking about the Masonic religion. And Jedi tells me that Albert Pike is just some quackadoodle anti-Mason. Where is it? Come on! Furthermore, you continue to get it wrong where Masons are concerned. There's a Masonic lodge where I live. I've been there for an hour and I am now an expert. So I paraphrased. Their teachings are about as dangerous as a 1-year-old baby sucking a bottle. I suspect that Mr. Albert Pike uses the same tactics against the Masons as you anti-Mormonism quackadoodles use against the church. Okay, so I was quoting Albert Pike, the most celebrated, decorated, probably, Freemason of all time. Maybe he and Aleister Crowley, the world's most wicked man, grandfather of Satanism, basically. The trainer of Anton LaVey, head of Ordo Templi Orientis in Los Angeles, where L. Ron Hubbard and Anton LaVey, who started, Church of Satan in modern times, and L. Ron Hubbard, who started Scientology, were disciples of Aleister Crowley, 33rd degree Freemason, as was Albert Pike. And, we read recently about how decorated Mr. Aleister Crowley was. Jimmy Page bought his castle there. Wanted to know more of the black magic, hoping to thrust Led Zeppelin higher. Okay, so Albert Pike, an anti-Masonic quackadoodle. I suspect that Mr. Albert Pike uses the same tactics against the Masons. Oh my gosh. I almost blasphemed. Sorry. Just for fun, I think I took it over to Wikipedia here. The quotes. Yeah, they're just made up by anti-Mason quackadoodles. Well, look at that. It's Albert Pike. Oh, what's he got? All sorts of his Masonic regalia. Oh, 33rd. He's got his 33rd degree regalia on him. He's just a quackadoodle. He was head of the Southern Jurisdiction and head of all Freemasonry for the North America for like 30 years. He wrote Morals and Dogma, revised the rituals of the Scottish Rite, Grand Commander, whatever. Okay, look. Pike first joined who? He's an odd fellow, and then he basically got about 10 degrees out of the York Rite, which is the people that started, Nauvoo Lodge, and then here we go. Let's get into his notably, come on, Freemasonry, blah blah blah. He remained sovereign Grand Commander for the remainder of his life, a total of 32 years, devoting a large amount of his time to developing the rituals of the order. Notably published a book called Morals and Dogma of the Ancient Accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry in 1871, of which there are several subsequent editions, and it was handed out by the authority of the Supreme Council of the 33rd degree to brothers reaching, they're called brothers, I don't know, it's like a 14th degree, for like 100 years. He became extremely active in the affairs of the organization, being elected Sovereign Grand Commander of the Scottish Rite Southern Jurisdiction in 1859. Yeah, well, so this is not saying half the story, but Pike's about as big as you get. So in other words, calling Albert Pike some kind of anti-Mason quackadoodle, essentially, that's like saying that about, you know, the composite of Brigham Young, Joseph Fielding Smith, Spencer W. Kimball, and Gordon B. Hinckley. Okay? This guy's like the biggest Masonic scholar. He's as big as you get, basically, and not be, you know, head of the, you know, Mother Lodge in Britain. So, you've embarrassed yourself once again, Jedi. Big time. Big time. So what were some of those little quotes he was talking about? Untitled document. So, some of our most famous guys in Freemason would be Manly P. Hall, Albert Pike, Aleister Crowley, you know, Elphus Levi, whatever. So let's throw some, what were some of those cults? Yeah, quotes from these Luciferians whose religion they brought in, Joseph Smith brought into Mormonism. And if you read, like out of their stuff, out of their occult books, you will see the language that you learned in Mormonism in many things. Or if you read magic stuff, you'll see, you know, keys, setting apart, dedicating, degrees, all of these things, the order of Melchizedek, all these things that come out of Freemasonry and magic. Occultist and author Manly Palmer Hall, not to mention the Luciferian teachings, which you learn to recognize if you read some of, you know, Albert Pike's ancient and accepted, whatever, Morals and Dogma. When the Mason learns that the key to the warrior on the block is the proper application of the dynamo of living power, he has learned the mystery of his craft. The seething energies of Lucifer are in his hands. Okay, so it goes on to tell us what he needs to do with the seething energies of Lucifer. That's Manly P. Hall, 33rd degree Freemason, heavy-duty occultist and lecturer, big time author. Very interesting to listen to. Some of his dissertations are on YouTube. It's pretty interesting, actually. Seething energies of Lucifer in your hands. Okay, alright, so here we're talking about, you know, pledging your soul to Lucifer by Elphus Levi. Okay, now they're talking about how great it is to be Luciferian. Holy Spirit, where the physical Lucifer is the great angel of the universal magnetism. Albert Pike, 33rd degree Freemason and authors of Moral and Dogma. Lucifer, the light bearer, strange and mysterious name to give the spirit of darkness. Lucifer, the son of the morning. Is it he who bears the light? And with its splendors intolerable binds feeble, sensual, or devilish, selfish souls? Doubt it not. The devil is the personification of atheism, idolatry. For initiates, this is not a person, but a force created for good, but which may serve for evil. It is the instrument of liberty or free will. They represent this force which preside over the physical generation under the mythological and horned form of the god Pan. Thence came the he-goat of the Sabbat, brother of the ancient serpent and the light bearer, of which the poets have made the false Lucifer of legend. That which we must say to a crowd is, we worship a god. But it is the God that one adores without superstition. This is Pike, by the way. To you, sovereign grand inspectors, general, that means guys that are 33rd degree Scottish Rite, we say this, that you may repeat it to the brethren of the 32nd, 31st, and 30th degrees. The Masonic religion... Say what, Jedi? It's not even a religion? This is the head of Freemasonry at the time saying it is a religion. The Masonic religion should be, by all of us initiates of the high degrees, maintained in the purity of the Luciferian doctrine. That's Albert Pike. If Lucifer were not God, would Adonai, that means Yahweh, it means my Lord in Hebrew, which is what the Hebrews called Yahweh, so they would piss him off by using his name. They called him Adonai, which means my Lord, and they called him Elohim, which means the gods or God. And of course, it's probably a good time to say that those two words were partially taken and to construct with some vowels the name Yehovah, which became Jehovah. And this was done by a Catholic monk who became a monk. He was an occultist in the 13th century A.D. Thus, Jehovah never existed during the time of Abraham, nor the times of the Book of Mormon. So we find his name mentioned, this name mentioned there, which was made up by a monk from the Great and Abominable Church of the Devil, as a complete anachronism, showing that the person that wrote that was a fool who did not know the Catholics invented the name Jehovah. That's right. Poor Joseph Smith didn't realize that Tyndale stuck that into the Bible, like, I don't know, 15th, 16th century, a little before Joseph Smith's time, and he thought that was like a real name. The Latinized combination of Adonai and Elohim by a Catholic monk. Showing that the Book of Mormon was constructed by somebody who didn't know what he was talking about. Same thing with the Book of Abraham. All sorts of false things in there, but we're not focusing on that now. If Lucifer were not God, says Albert Pike, sovereign grand commander of the southern jurisdiction and of all North America, would Adonai, whose deeds prove his cruelty, perfidy, and hatred of man, barbarism and repulsion for science, would Adonai and his priests calumniate him? Apparently, Albert Pike read the Old Testament and found out what a jerk God was before he went through anger management and became Jesus. He was a psychopath who murdered his children and then had his prophets do the same thing. People like Moses and Joshua. Yeah, anyway. Yes, Lucifer is God, and unfortunately Adonai is also God. For the eternal law is that there is no light without shade, no beauty without ugliness, no white without black. Does this sound like what Lucifer said in the garden to Eve to get her to eat the fruit? You must know pleasure from pain. You must know the bitter to prize the sweet. All those things he said to Eve, and then I think Eve parroted that to Adam when she said, if we hadn't disobeyed, we would never have had the seed, and you would have no sex life because I would be kicked out because I ate first. I probably shouldn't be saying that on the holy Sabbath day. At least it's not fast Sunday. Okay, the doctrine here is Luciferian doctrine, and we find it in Mormonism. In the temple, we find it in Alma, saying, you know, there's opposition in all things. Okay, continuing. No beauty without ugliness, no white without black, for the absolute can only exist as two gods, darkness being necessary to the statue, and the break to the locomotive. Thus the doctrine of Satanism is a heresy, and the true and pure philosophical religion is the belief in Lucifer, the equal of Adonai. But Lucifer, God of light and God of good, is struggling for humanity against Adonai, the God of darkness and evil, the God of the Bible. Well, Jedi Mormon, put that in your intergalactic pipe and smoke it. That's not a random anti-Masonic quote. That's like coming from as high. That's the Gordon B. Hinckley, Thomas Monson, Joseph Fielding Smith, Brigham Young of Freemasonry. Okay, it's authoritative. It's as authoritative as it gets. He is like the master scholar. Arthur Edward Waite, 33rd degree Freemason. First conjuration addressed to Emperor Lucifer, Master Prince of Religious Spirits, blah, 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 blah. Okay, look, I don't want to get into this conjuring spirit stuff here. Manly Palmer Hall, who wrote The Fellow Craft, The Lost Keys of Freemasonry, The Secret Teachings of All Ages. Secret Teaching of All Ages is quoted by The Mysteries of Magic, a digest of the writings of Elphys Levi. Albert Pike, Morals and Dogma. This is a bibliography of some of the things they are prepared for the Council of the 33rd prepared for the Supreme Council of the 33rd Degree for the Southern Jurisdiction of the United States, and published by its authority. That's how Morals and Dogma of the Ancient and Accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry was published, by the authority of the Southern Jurisdiction of the United States, by their most preeminent man in the Western Hemisphere at the time, and distributed for about 100 years prolifically to initiates reaching the 14th degree, I believe. Might have varied at times. So, no, he's not a quackadoodle, Jedi. These quotes aren't quackadoodle quotes. I just thought I'd establish that. Because we do have people out there that say things that they can't back up, but I try to back things up. And, you know, there's tons of this in these books, written by high-degree Freemasons. And it's not the taxi hoax and all that BS that, you know, Masonic apologists try to use to separate themselves from Luciferianism. We have quote after quote after quote of their highest degree men, most decorated, endorsing Lucifer. So, kind of strange that Joseph Smith decided Lucifer is a bad guy. Maybe he never reached very high. I don't know. I know he hit the 3rd degree, sublime degree. Some people try to say he was 33rd degree. Wasn't even in the Scottish Rite, as far as I know. It was York Rite guys that formed the lodge there in Nauvoo. So, we find Masonic doctrines in the temple, with Lucifer and Eve teaching them. Let's go to Reddit and see how people are struggling to believe the things that our illustrious leaders tell us are true. The ones that, you know, tell us it's wrong to criticize the leaders, even if the criticism is correct. Well, got so much stuff open here, you know? Reddit! Alright, so, you know, I'm doing this without editing, it looks like, so I'm going to have to go to portrait mode here. Just going to cruise through my history a little bit and see some of the things I was looking at this morning. Alright, how do I do that? I come over here, I guess. Oh, you can see my posts. Oh, look at my posts. Gleaning further light and knowledge from impudent, light-minded, apostate YouTubers this Sabbath day. In-depth introduction to anti-Mormonism YouTubers and our LDS apologist counterparts. Yeah, so that was a video I did like a week ago. And introduced people that I think do a really good job at getting to the details so we can get past the mind control, basically, the deterrents that tell us, don't listen to them, they're quackadoodles. Albert Pike's a quackadoodle. He's an anti-Mason quackadoodle. And when we look into the details, we find out that that's not actually the case. So, anyhow, cruise through my history here. So this is Reddit. So I know I've got various subreddits that I am subscribed to: Mormon, Latter-day Saints, ex-Mormon, a couple others. But here, for me to think, it helps if I shut up for a minute. Okay, so if I go back here, so I want to see some of the posts that these people made who are trying to understand how it can be. These people, I left the church. This is on ex-Mormon, along with my amazing husband and 2 children. Your husband? Are you old enough to be married? Oh, this one left with her amazing husband too. This one isn't worth reading. Sorry, girl. It turned into a discussion about her lipstick. I'm serious. Yeah, anyway. Nice lipstick. I just wasn't interested in the whole lipstick conversation. I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying it wasn't quite the conversation I was looking for. Alright, so this was like last week for me. Let's Play Scripture Challenge. Question number 1. Who was God's first prophet that saw him face to face? Why am I struggling to find what I was looking at here first? Results of my super short Exmo survey. And that person had some interesting things to say. Now, we had a person here that was... It ticks me off. Maybe I should pause this. Here it is. How do y'all deal with the feeling like Heavenly Father has abandoned you? So this is posted on Latter-day Saints. So this person is a faithful Latter-day Saint. And then I look at what this person says, and they're like, we were trying to go by, we had revelation that we needed to move back to this place, but now everything's screwed, or, ran out of money. We're hoping the bishop's going to help us out. Basically, we went on this revelation and we're screwed. And I guess this wasn't the first thing that's been difficult in this lady's life. There have been many small blessings along the way, so I know that Heavenly Father hasn't abandoned us. Lately, it just feels like He has. I can't seem to shake the feeling. I'm not sure how much longer I can hang on. It sucks not knowing if you will be able to provide for your child. It sucks to feel this way. Have any of you out there had times like this, basically? How did you hang on? Maybe I should read a little bit of the beginning here. She says, I'm not trying to whine. I just need to get this out there. This is my safe space. Due to a series of events in my life, my husband and daughter and I have moved back to the state where my husband was born. Heavenly, I guess it means Heavenly Father, Heavenly told us that we needed to move back, so we did. We have been living in our new state for almost 2 months, and it seems like nothing is working in our favor. We've been applying for jobs, no luck. Our bank account's like below zero. We're out of food practically. The bishop's aware of it, but he hasn't done anything, but we think he's going to. Hopefully we'll have some food orders, and hopefully he'll help us pay some bills. Yeah, bishops love that when somebody moves into their ward and then they're like, I'm going to be negative cash flow. Is that okay? Okay, so, I looked at some other posts this person had, and Relief Society sisters offering unwanted advice, being nosy and stuff. There was a really good comment on that, though. I'll just share this for Sunday morning humor. In the afternoon, but I did want to get into some more serious stuff here. But how do you deal with Relief Society ladies giving me unwanted parenting advice? People that just can't keep their mouths shut when they're at church. They have to deal with this poor woman. And so she tells them how these people give her all kinds of lectures on this and that, getting nosy. And I just wanted to share this really good comment here. And she's like, how do I say something without offending him? And or is it? Anyway, it was challenge them to a fight in the parking lot after church. Okay, so that person had some interesting posts. Let me go back to the history. All right. Maybe it's been too long since I read it this morning to be as coherent as I was. All right. Gleaning for... Oh, I've really screwed it up. So there was another one in here. Maybe I've really made it difficult to find what I was looking for. What happens when the counselors... Yeah, this was... what happens to the counselors when a new prophet is called? So this one somebody gets into, how's that work? So somebody starts talking about how, like, David O. McKay had all these counselors. Yeah, one after, they had like 5 counselors or something, and then they couldn't decide if they were counselors to the president or counselors to the council, in the presidency or of the presidency, for the presidency, whatever. And basically he was shining on a couple of them, and it just sounded like it wasn't being divinely guided when we get done looking at it. And so, this is a different one from that other person here. It says, how do we get hung up on consequential things? I'll read that one later. So, the point was, as we read, and then it finally got to Alvin R. Dyer, becoming a member of the presidency. Basically, all this contention going on of how the church should be guided, and it sure didn't sound like it was, being guided by some divine light feeding them, some unified message that we the way it's portrayed to us, like, when we hear, oh, yes, President Kimball spoke and all of us felt the spirit. We all knew we needed to give the Negroes the priesthood and everything was wonderful. And when I heard other people, they maybe had connections with people in there, or even stuff that was something in WikiLeaks too. They were fighting like hell. It was like a board meeting. Had nothing to do, but they tell us, the Spirit of the Lord was there. So anyway, this article's talking all about that, and it goes on, all sorts of interaction that was going on between these various brethren and the agendas they were pushing. And then one of them was the guy that, got the church to buy 2% of Florida or something, big cattle ranches. And they basically got rid of him and exiled him to Florida, it said. And it didn't sound like God, the Father of Lights, was guiding the church, Alvin Dyer is the one who, I wondered, why don't we have the whole presidency signing on these statements that I'm reading, the missionaries have got? So one statement was signed by Alvin R. Dyer. And I thought, if he's in the first presidency, well, why don't they have other guys signing it? But it was just him. And that was a statement that told us that Negroes were fence sitters. And it also told us, it actually showed a graphic of the Pope's crown in 3 different languages, where it says the Vicar of God or whatever, the Oracle of God, whatnot. So they had it in like Greek and in Latin and in Hebrew. And then they had numeric values for every letter, and each time it added up to 666. And they told us that, that was further proof that it was a great and abominable church, and he was the Antichrist. So that was signed by Alvin Dyer. So I read that as a stake missionary or so. At the time, the missionaries had it. The full-time missionaries had it. The mission president had given it to them. So that presidency wound up having like 5 counselors in it at one time, apparently, and it just sounded, pretty interesting. So anyway, they start criticizing. Somebody says, yeah, well, here's, the guy who gave us the rundown on the presidency. And here's something on him, and there you go, it's Fair Mormon, and it's Dan Peterson, and he's looking for a way to find a way to discredit this guy. And he says, oh, look, it was published by Signature Books, and Signature Books published books from other people who were excommunicated. That means they're bad and we shouldn't listen to them. Well, these were people that published, things that are like factual, and the church didn't want it to get out, like maybe Michael Quinn published stuff like about the seer stone and different things, and they got rid of him for apostasy because he shared Mormon history that they didn't want shared. Or, women that thought that they should have the priesthood or something. And, we give it to the blacks, but we can't give it to the women. And when Larry King asked that of Gordon B. Hinckley, he said he asked about the blacks, and, Hinckley's like, oh, that's the way they interpreted the revelations then. And he said, well, what about the women? And he's like, oh, no, that's a revelation from God. That's the way the Lord set it forth. And if you look at the language of things, I don't really see that the language, it says the Canaanites can't have the priesthood. It's clear and simple. It's in Abraham, right? It's chapter 1. So, they always ignore that. They just blame everything on Brigham Young. So what I'm saying is everything's manipulated the way that they want it to be, and got guys like Hinckley that, they can make black look white and white look black. Yeah. We never taught, I don't know that we teach that men can become gods. Gee, it's in section 132, it's in the priesthood manual, and you taught it yourself, Hinckley, in general conference. I don't know that we teach it, I don't know that we emphasize it. You don't? What, are you losing your mind? Because you plainly taught it, and it's right in the Doctrine and Covenants right now. But that's not the image you wanted on, going out in his PR campaign. So he basically, basically denied really core teachings of the faith in the media. So this guy says, why do we get so hung up on inconsequential things like facts not being right in faith-promoting stories? The important thing is the message. Well, the important thing is that the stories are made up BS to get us to believe in this stuff, so we'll keep paying tithing. That's the point. That's the point, Mr. Whoever you are, Mr. or Mrs. That Mormon Mike. I guess it wouldn't be Mrs. Mike, hopefully. Yeah, sorry, I haven't converted to the whole transgender idea. Sorry, Bruce. Or Kathleen Jenner. I'm not into that scene really, but I don't want to castigate you. I'm just kind of grossed out, that's all. So, yeah, Mormon Mike tells us that, and then, gets into it with this other guy, and the other guy expresses a different opinion, so he was rather fervent. So the guy says, so Mormon Mike says, oh, so you're a jerk. He's a jerk. He's a jerk because he says, I've noticed that things are not consistent with, the theme that an all-knowing, unchanging God guides the church. It's a problem. Problem for this person here. It'll all work out in the next life. In other words, being BS'd when you find out your patriarchal blessing, lied about all of the promises. It says, do this, this, and this, and this, and this, and this will happen. You'll have a happy marriage, and, you'll make lots of money, and your kids will get married in the temple, and all go on missions, and you'll go to, on vacation to Tahiti every year. Obviously, I haven't heard that one. Maybe to the Polynesian Cultural Center. So, when you look at it, and you did your part, but the Lord's promises are all BS, and somebody just says, it'll all work out in the next life. So let's see what they say. Why do we use, lob this phrase so often at people whose lives irrevocably don't match the ideal? While I've heard it and similar sentiments said even in general conference, I haven't found much scriptural validation of the teaching. I have found it to be the opposite of comforting. What value does it have other than allowing those who have certain blessings to silence the mourning of those who don't? I'm looking for a way to not be embittered by it. I think that might be the same person that had those other issues. So people are noticing that they're getting BS'd. It's kind of like, have you ever heard this one in church? Like in a gospel doctrine, or maybe the fifth Sunday, husbands and wives get to, hang out together during priesthood time, and they have the double meeting or whatever, and they say something like, the brethren have told us that even if your children aren't faithful, if you keep staying faithful, maybe if you pay 12% tithing, okay, they didn't say that, that somehow we'll be connected in the world to come. Really? That's pretty much a violation of the whole, free agency thing and personal accountability and all those doctrines. But if it helps keep the tithing flowing in, we'll say it. It'll all work out in the next life. I'm sorry, all those promises, the Book of Mormon says, if you keep the commandments, you will prosper in the land. But some people are just screwed no matter what, no matter how hard they try. They're just screwed. So, what do they tell them? It'll all work out in the next life. Jesus is giving you a trial of your faith. Latter-day Saints struggling because reality doesn't match what they're being told. The gospel of prosperity is BS. It validates those who are in leadership, who have lots of money, and so they're righteous, God bless them. The reason your life is crappy is because somehow, you must have some hidden sin. You're just not faithful enough. You might look like you're paying enough tithing, but, maybe you're probably looking at porn in the bathroom at work or something. You're not worthy. Where are the mods on this sub? This one kind of pissed me off. This is the same Mike guy. And this is where this other hubbub starts. He's like, he wants censorship. Where are the mods on this sub? This is Mormon. Mormon seems to let people actually talk, Latter-day Saints, if they determine that you don't believe that Gordon B. Hinckley was a prophet, then they get rid of you. You're a disease, You're a disease. You might infect the minds of others to think about things that these people actually say. In fact, check them. Same thing with what happened to me on Ex-Mormon, too. But in Mormon, which is much, like 5,000 subscribers instead of like 55,000 like Exmo has, I have no issue with the questioning posts and comments, but there are lots of blatantly hateful and ugly posts and comments that don't get cleaned up. Why? Oh, yeah. So people aren't allowed to have anger at the brethren? We want to censor again, is what he's saying. Well, I'd just like to say that Mormon Mike, I'm giving you the finger right now. I'm giving you the middle finger salute, Mike. I don't believe in that kind of censorship People want to say, screw Dallin Oaks for his lies and hypocrisy and telling the seminary teachers to teach to program and condition the seminary students that facts are not important, that we don't base our testimonies on any set of historical fact, but if you're worthy, you'll get a witness from the Spirit. So if you don't get a witness, you're unworthy, you piece of crap. Circular reasoning and freaking mind control. Screw you, Dallin Oaks. Screw you, Jeffrey Hongland. Screw you, David Bednar. I hate you. There. And I'll post this there, too. So I'm glad that some of the mods are better on Mormon, possibly, than ex-Mormon and Latter-day Saints. All right, so this guy, I want to read this. Hi, Mike. Let me tell you a quick story. I'm in my 50s. In fact, let's illuminate this a little bit. Oh, I saw Jedi on there. I thought he's going to respond to the earlier thing. We might have to do that live, check on what Jedi said. Let me tell you a quick story. I'm in my 50s and I was born and raised Mormon, 5th generation Mormon, through my great-great-grandfather's 3rd wife. Does that sound like a polygamous 3rd wife? From that time I was 6 years old, I knew there was something really messed up with the LDS Church. Keeping this semi-G-rated here. Most of the stories just didn't make sense. Like, why would young Joseph Smith refuse to drink alcohol to keep, to help with the pain of surgery? The word of wisdom didn't even exist at that point. Freemason, Joseph was a drinker his whole life. People said, he put the prophet to bed tonight with his boots on. He was a jolly old prophet when he gets together with the boys. There were dozens, if not hundreds, of other examples, like, why does the church specifically insist that the Job is a true story? My bishop said it was a fairy tale. And I'm like, gee, that's quoted in Doctrine and Covenants. The Lord supposedly tells Joseph Smith, thou art not yet as Job. When it's obviously a 3-act play. And why exactly did God care so much about whether or not Joseph Smith got physically intimate with various women? But I was a good TBM, True Believing Mormon, True Blue Mormon, and so I did what I was told and I turned off my brain. Well, then a few years back, the internet floodgates opened and indisputable proof flowed forth that Joseph Smith was in fact a liar and a con man. And I was angry because it was obvious to me that the leaders of the church knew it all along. They had to know it. There was no way any human being with an IQ over 30 could avoid knowing it. Alright, he's a little wild here. I think you have to probably have at least an IQ of 85 to cognate that, but, at any rate, that must have really upset Mike. I was humiliated, hurt, and angry, but what pissed me off the most was that there were still people who, even in the face of incontrovertible fact, still insisted that we take the Mormon Church seriously. Since reason and logic weren't going to get me anywhere with these people, I just started insulting them in the bluntest, rudest way possible. But make no mistake, I'm not the bad guy here. The bad guys are the liars, frauds, and con artists who purposely created a cult based on deception, bigotry, and intolerance. So, really, Elder Oaks can take his homophobia and stick it where the sun don't shine. I'm not going to debate issues like equal rights with him or anyone else. The fact that Mormons have voted for Richard Nixon, George W. Bush, and Donald Trump tells me that they enjoy being stupid, vicious, and evil. But seriously, if you can think of a way for me to engage active Mormons on a level other than snide and rude remarks, let me know. But if you think for even a second that I'm going to pretend like the Mormon views on equal rights and politics are anything other than repugnant, well, sorry, you're going to be disappointed. So, the OP here, the original poster. So I was saying the Mr. Mike guy just says, oh, I get it. You're a jerk. Yeah. That's what he says. You don't agree with me, so you're a jerk. So the guy was a little, you're a jerk. Got it. Thanks. The guy was kind of abrasive, but that's how far apart we get from people in the mindset. That's how far you go from the point where you are so conditioned mentally to believe that these guys are prophets. They're holy men. They talk with and for God. And then when you see, you know, that it's ridiculous. Yeah, Joseph Smith says God wants you to invest in the Kirtland Anti-Banking Safety Society. You will be blessed if you do it, you know, and then the thing goes to pot, you know, there's the banking crisis and all that stuff, and they were, you know, looked like they were printing fake money. Of course, that's what the Federal Reserve does, but, you know, they have they have a monopoly, so whoever has the gold makes the rules, right? The golden rule. Joseph Smith tried his hand at the, you know, banking game and said that the Lord, you know, wanted us to invest in that bank, and it failed. It wasn't a bank. They couldn't get a bank charter. So they just did it, you know, basically illegally, it sounded like. How was God supposed to know there was going to be a, you know, housing bubble collapse? An economic problem, a banking problem. How was God supposed to know anything like that? What do you think he is, omniscient? Yeah, so Joseph Smith, the prophet, led the people into financial ruin with the Kirtland Bank, the Kirtland not bank, Anti-Banking Safety Society. Nothing safe about investing in that. Or when Joseph Smith told Oliver Cowdery and Hiram Page to go to Toronto, that he'd had a revelation that, I think through his seer stone, that they could successfully sell the Book of Mormon copyright, at least in Canada, for a large sum of money. They came back after having completely failed and said, what's up with your revelation? And he says, some revelations are from God, some from men, some from devils. Since he's using, you know, demonic magic, using a seer stone, which is like using a crystal ball or a dark mirror or a Ouija board or automatic writing or any other form of channeling through the spiritual world known in magic. Why should we think it's from some holy God? Then what's the word holy mean? Isn't it, maybe that's from, like, you know, a reference to the sun anyway, right? Like Helio, I don't know. Read something about that. But that means he's supposed to be good. The Egyptian god that Christianity comes from the, you know, the Egyptian Trinity. Horus, Isis, and Osiris. Holy, supposed to be good. The God of Israel is supposed to be a good guy. We read the Bible, we find out he's not. You know, you read the Old Testament, he's a mass murderer. Horrific, full of evil temper tantrums, just not a good guy, complete psychopath. And people say he's a nice guy. He's supposed to be a good guy. Well, I think Jesus' doctrine sounded a little better, a lot better, most of the time. But you know, he said he was before Abraham was, I am. That's a confession. If I am is the God of the Old Testament, and that guy was seriously evil, which we were reading earlier. Albert Pike talking about it, and you know, you don't have to be a genius. Just read the Book of Numbers, read the Book of Genesis, read the Book of Leviticus. Kill them all. They're picking up sticks on the Sabbath day. They can keep their children warm or avoid botulism. Cook a meal. Kill them. Make a public make a group cult learning experience out of it. Just kill them. They need to be worshiping Yahweh all day long. That holy Sabbath day. So people are involved with another religion, kill them. That's evil. We don't accept religious tolerance, religious freedom. Get rid of them. That's evil. They're not following this religion. They follow another religion. They don't follow any religion. Kill them. They worship me or they're dead. I want everybody worshiping me. We're supposed to be his children. Can you imagine yourself as a god? Worship me or I'll kill you. To your children? No wonder we can't pray to Heavenly Mother or one of the many Heavenly Mothers. I don't think that they would be that cruel. Well, we'll take a break and get back later. Jedi messaged me. It'll be interesting. In the name of the Age of Reason, amen. Like, subscribe, share. Thanks. Dodger Game out.